This is Self-Starter. Hello, friends. Welcome to Self-Starter, a podcast that highlights the small business owners, the self-employed and freelancers who've taken the plunge to create their own desirable lifestyle. My name is Andy Dowling. I'm also the host of the Andy Social Podcast. I play bass in the Australian metal band Lord, and I'm a dispute resolution specialist. So yes, lots and lots of things, and I can't keep still. You can search for me and follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter by searching at Andy Dowling, or you can go to selfstarter.com.au where you can find links and resources not only for this podcast, but anything and everything to do with self-employment. So make sure you go over there. Now, this episode is with Karin of Lescargo, Ivre Photography and Graphic Design. I'm going to butcher that. I knew it. So Karin's been up and running for the past 5 years, based out of Milton. She's got a great story. She grew up in Milton, went away, did a whole bunch of different things, and then found her way back to Milton, where she now provides a multi-service business to not only consumers and customers in the local area, but to other businesses. So it's like a B2B thing, as well as her providing services to individuals as well. We spent a bit of time covering, I guess, the timeline of events, some of her history. Her parents were self-employed, so she got a lot of that fundamental sort of approach from them, but really having an urge to do things that are fulfilling for herself and working for herself on her own terms. So lots of great things in this, but I'll leave it at that. Please enjoy this episode with Karin of Lescargo, Ivre Photography and Graphic Design. Got there.
My name's Karin Neate. I run Lescargo Ivre Photography and Graphic Design. A lot of it's portrait-based photography for small business, council, families, weddings, anything really. But then I also do a fair bit of graphic design, and I help out small businesses a lot, and council, and basically anyone who needs a bit of Golf Friday help. So I'll help them with their websites or any design projects that they have to do, social media, marketing, anything that they might want to palm off.
Multi-skilled.
You kind of have to do that in a small town. You need to diversify a little bit and offer as much of your skill base as you can.
Wow. And so in this current facet of what you've created, how long has that been up and running?
Golf Friday side of it has been up and running since March. Yep. I have tried a few things over the last 5 years of running Lescargo Ivre Photography and Graphic Design. I had a great home-based studio at Greenhouse Gallery for 4 years, and then I went into a shop space for 12 months. Mm-hmm. And then moved out of both of those and took it to home base. And so that led me into offering more services and offering the Girl Friday sort of stuff.
So from what you mentioned earlier before we started recording, you've got a long history of just being self-employed. Just your parents were both business owners. So this is, it might not be the right word, but is it natural for you to be self-employed?
It has been for the last 5 years. Yeah. Before that, from school, from uni, I went into. I was always employed by someone else. Yeah. It's only been the last 5 years that I've been self-employed. So, okay. So I was a teacher. I did a lot of work in hospitality, customer service, sales, pharmacies, childcare, nannying, all sorts of things. Really over say 10 to 15 years. And then as I was working in high schools, I got into playing with my camera again. I used to be really into art and photography in high school, but sort of put it to the side and got into languages and teaching, and then towards the end of my teaching, picked up the camera and started working with the students with the camera a lot. Found out that I was way more interested in playing with the computer and the camera, and built the business over 2 years before I launched.
So, not that there was, I would assume, no light bulb moment, so to speak, but did you sort of realise when you started to really show this renewed interest in photography and whatnot, that was that, I guess the question is, was that the driving force to become or to work towards that self-employed sort of foundation, or was it more of a case that you just didn't want to work for anybody anymore? You just wanted to...
No. Weirdly enough, what it was is I was coming up to about 30 when I picked up my camera, and I knew that teaching was one of those sort of stressful jobs that I wouldn't want to come home and look after my own children. So if I did want to create a family in my 30s, the idea was that I'd want to be able to build a career that I could work from home and be home-based. So I went back to uni while I was still working full-time and studied graphic design and photography, bought myself an amazing camera, started doing more and more shoots, and within 2 years, my photography was picking up so much that I decided to move back home to my hometown and give it a go.
So moving back to your hometown, which is Milton, and for people that aren't aware or have never been to Milton, it's a pretty small place. It's nestled between some larger towns, but it's a small place and it's in regional New South Wales. Was it more of a, just for you, a connection being that you grew up here, the reason for coming back, or were you just, there was a personal preference of just living in a quieter place?
I've lived in a lot of small towns since I've left the Milton Ulladulla area. Milton Ulladulla actually seems fairly it's a fairly wide spans of towns. So if you're only sort of catering to Milton Ulladulla and Mollymook, Narrawally, it also that seems like it would be a small pool of people, but I'll stretch out quite a lot further south and quite a lot further north. So there is a fair like target audience of people that I can still attract and get enough business from.
Yeah, cool.
It does. Small coastal towns tend to close down a little bit in winter, so we have our peaks and our lows. So the lows are always a little bit daunting, but if you've prepared through your peaks, then those lows give you time to catch up and plan for bigger ideas and try new things.
That's it. Take advantage of that, those quieter moments.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a common thing that I'm seeing with a lot of people, is that stereotypically, and I've spent 12 odd years living in Sydney, and before that living in Brisbane, so I've a lot of, I guess, recent years for me is living in built up areas in the city and whatnot, and there's been a lot of stigma and stereotype around that if you want opportunities and you want success, whether it be being employed or having, you know, your own business or whatnot, is that you need to be in those vicinities. And if you're in a regional area, there's higher risk. There's not as many opportunities and whatnot. But a lot of people I've been speaking to, yes, okay, you haven't got millions of people, but there's still a decent population. And in the end, everybody still needs the same sort of things. So, and from what you just said, it's a sparse, it's a wide area, but there's still a fair few people here that you can leverage off.
You've also got less competition. So there are less people that are offering the services that you're offering. Plus, the other thing with small towns is the community. So you know each other. You stop and have a chat in the street, and as you walk past somebody, they'll go, "Oh, that's right. Hey, what are you doing? I need you to come and do this job for me." So it's and networking here is second to none. You can't get that sort of word of mouth in a city. Yep. 100% of my work comes through Facebook, or well, maybe 90%, because I do get a little bit through the website, but 90% of my work comes through social media. So my networks and the recommendations that people will pop up for me when somebody asks for somebody with my services. So it's I actually don't know if I'd get as much work in a city as what I get here.
Big fish, small pond.
Yes, maybe. Maybe one of the larger fish. Maybe.
Yeah.
There's a few of us still.
Did you have that confidence? I mean, confidence might not be the right word, but did you have some confidence when you were moving back here and you had the plan to get up and running, that because you'd grown up here and you had some of that foundation, that you're going to be okay with finding clients and finding customers to fuel your business?
That really helped, knowing that I knew people here already, and I was really well embraced when I came back. It was surprising how many people I saw that were just lit up and just happy to see you. So that sort of boded well. But the main thing for me is I had a bit of a fail safe behind me. I also had a teaching degree, and when I did come back here, I went straight into the high school where I went to high school. Yep. And asked for a bit of casual teaching. They gave me a 6-month block in 2 seconds flat. I had to tell them, no, less teaching. I need to start. I want to focus on my business. Otherwise, I could have just been working full time as a teacher. Yep. So that fail safe was there for me, and there came a point where I needed to get rid of that fail safe because it was too easy to go back to it. So I let my teaching registration slide. Right. And now when I'm feeling the pinch of a low season or there's not enough work, it forces me to be more creative in my thinking and my marketing, and set up a shoot or advertise myself a bit better, or actually go out there and look for opportunities for myself.
Oh, I like that where because it's just so easy just to fall back into that comfort of knowing that, you could let this slide, you could just relax a bit and take the foot off the pedal a bit and fall back into something that and you're comfortable with. But by letting that lapse and realizing that it's just not that easy anymore just to jump back into that world, as you said, it forces you to have to think outside the box, be creative, and start pushing yourself more to making your business bigger and better.
I've learned that I don't need all those materialistic things, and I don't need to spend the money that I was once spending. The higher income that I was living off as a teacher, or the regular income, I miss it sometimes, but I remember how much of that I wasted on clothes and shoes and things that I can really live without. I'm doing by choosing to run my own business and do photography and graphic design, and not do teaching. I'm choosing to do something that prioritizes my life goals. So I wanted to work from home. I wanted to have freedom and flexibility in what I do. I wanted to do something that makes people happy and that I enjoy. And I loved it. I loved photography and graphic design. So if nearly 100% of my day is photography and graphic design, rather than all the million and one other things that come in with teaching, then I've prioritized that better, and I've made the right choice to sacrifice a little bit in order to do the things that I love. Absolutely.
And with, I guess, having the other safety net of having the local community and I assume a decent number of people here knowing who you are, and that sort of helps you with your foundation. You mentioned Facebook being a big driver of business. How have you been able to really sort of, I guess, ingrain yourself into the community by getting more community support? You mentioned before and right at the start of being sort of multi-skilled and providing lots of different things for the local businesses. What sort of things do you do to try and make sure that you're at front of mind for people when they need this sort of work?
I'm a regular social media user. So that also falls back to networking and that small town community of supporting other people in the community. So if I'm asking for support for my business, then I want to give it out at tenfold more. So I made sure at the very beginning is to go through and find all the local businesses and support them. So I support them, and they in turn follow me. And they see my advertising. So I post regularly. I post examples of my work regularly. I post offers and whatever advertisements of events or different things that I've got going on. And they get seen because I support other people. They support me. That advertisement gets out there a little bit further. They share it. I share their stuff. It's the idea of community and networking is very old school, but it's very strong in our local social media as well. So people are using that technology. So it's a great way to reach them, especially when you're working from home. You're not actually seeing them physically as often as you might be in a open business where people can walk in.
That's right. And everyone's swept up in their own businesses, and it's hard just to step out and literally step out and walk up the road or travel to somebody and have a chat to them. If everyone's connected online, you don't even need to have a conversation. You're just seeing what other people are doing, and it's quite powerful.
A little thumb or a little heart is like a smile. It's a bit of encouragement. And it makes people feel good. It's a nice thing that creates a warmth and appreciation for each other, and it adds to the whole community vibe.
Has this part of, I guess, this region, and I know that Milton's connected to Ulladulla, and Ulladulla's quite bigger, but I guess Milton being, I've only sort of lived down this way for a couple of years, but I see Milton as that next Berry. So Berry's a bit different now. They've got a bypass that goes through it, but you still get a lot of traffic coming through Milton. Have you seen a difference in the area over the last couple of years of, is it changing? Is there different people coming through, or different people staying, people taking up, or is it...
I think probably Sydney is moving further south with the population growth. That's a definite thing. Our real estate prices are going up, and we are getting a lot of new blood coming through with new businesses. So Milton, it definitely is a very little Berry, and it has some amazing retail shops and cafes. Some have come and gone, and I think one of the main thing is for the ones that are new and new to town, it's gaining the support of the locals, because you do have the huge influx of tourists in the peak season over summer. Starting from the October long weekend, we have the weekends start to get a bit busier and busier and busier. Weeks are still a little bit on the quiet side, but from December through to February, you can expect that the town's going to be pretty packed and business is going to be good no matter what. But those businesses will only last if they get involved in the community and they become supported by the community, because they need that support through the slow seasons as well. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of people here, but at the same time, it is relatively small as well. So you really need to make sure that you got everybody working together as best as possible.
Yeah. And offering a service that supports other businesses or goes hand in hand with other businesses helps as well. So there are lots of new businesses come and go. So it's interesting to see why, I suppose. Some last and some don't. But yeah, it's about knowing your clientele base and being able to offer something that they're going to want year round.
Did you see that when you were moving back here, that you could see that there was a hole, or there was an opportunity where you could help businesses? I mean, obviously you're providing services for businesses and for individuals, but could you see that there was something lacking, that you could fill that void?
No, not at all. That grew. To start with, I had a stint in the Blue Mountains, that's where I picked up my camera, and then it was a real vintage vibe, and I started out thinking that I was going to be solely a burlesque vintage glamour sort of photographer. And I've done a lot of that. So I've set up a studio space with the vintage look, and I do all the polishing up and nips and tucks and all those sort of things that glamour photography sort of calls for. That was definitely a niche in the area. There wasn't anyone doing that at the time. But that's not enough. You've got to expand out of that. So there are plenty of photographers in town. Most of us have strengths in a certain area. So we have our strengths or our little niches, but we do pretty much everything as well. I also had the graphic design degree behind me, so so that was helping me in my own marketing. And then it was not much of a stretch to start offering graphic design, which was mainly for small businesses.
Yep.
So that linked me with them. And then as the social media grew and I knew more and more about the social media side of it, looked into more and more into marketing, had a little background in sales, but not quite enough to advertise myself as that until the years went on and I developed those skills.
It's I mean, it's the wonders of the internet and being able to have so many. I mean, obviously you go and study, but obviously having the connection with people and then being able to help them in a digital realm as well. I mean, it's just, there's so many opportunities there to really sort of help people elevate out of, well, I'm only advertising in the local paper, on the radio, if I'll never get on the local, TV network or anything like that. Now you can get online, you can create a page and away you go.
I'd skip all of those traditional mediums and just go straight to online.
That's it.
So when I'm helping a new business start up, I tend to make sure that they have a website.
Yep.
And a social media presence, which is basically Instagram and Facebook. They're the main ones that I push for. Most of the people that I help, and most people in small businesses, they have their skills in what their business is providing. Their businesses aren't necessarily photography or graphic design based. So the idea that of producing that and maintaining that can be quite overwhelming when it's not their skill base, and they want to get on with their business. They want to get on doing what they do best. So they outsource that, which is definitely a smart thing. If there's something that I can't do, or that is going to take me twice as long as what somebody else can do, or it's going to annoy me or make me frustrated, or just be one of those jobs that never get done because I don't really know how, or I just don't want to, because I want to do the fun stuff instead. Then I outsource it. So the businesses that come to me to get the help with graphic design, photography, social media, they outsource it, get back to doing what they do well, and we get it done and set up quick and set up automated sort of situations for them to make it just that bit easier less daunting.
That's a big thing for people to. I mean, they didn't have it in the first place, but it's almost to let go of an aspect of their business to allow somebody else to really sort of take it and make something of it. Everyone sort of, well, not everyone, but there's a lot of people that will just want to touch everything, and as a result, things don't get done because, as you said, there might be something that just mentally it's so hard to get past. I don't have the capacity to really think this through or look into it further, or it's just not fun whatsoever, and as a result it just never happens.
You've got to trust the people that you're outsourcing to. There's a huge element of trust in giving an aspect of your business to somebody else. So if you're giving your overall look and feel of a business to a graphic designer's hands, that's the first thing that people are going to see when they come across your business. So if you don't trust your designer or your photographer to give you quality, or to match the feel that you're trying to produce, then you're probably not going to be happy with the result, or it's never going to sit right. So the idea then is to really talk to your graphic designer or photographer, make sure that they understand the brief, get that feel right, and if you don't like something, come back and change it, and have a dialogue. So most of my clients are like, I end up spending a fair bit of time with having coffee and getting to know and seeing what it is that they're doing, and trying to match exactly their vibe. It's not about me. It's got nothing to do with my aesthetic. It's their aesthetic and their feel and their idea of what their business is going to be.
That's it. And building that trust with them so they know that you can get the job done. Or
if they don't like the first one, I'll do it again and I'll do it better.
So a few years in, and you've got lots of different facets and things that you provide. What are some of the current challenges that you have at the moment with just running everything that you have?
Currently moving house. does impact on my time and my headspace to be offering new things. So while I've been looking for a house and moving, I've been trying to find something that's going to work for me to do shoots as well.
Yep.
So finding a good venue that might work as within my business is always a little bit tricky. I've gone through, what is it, 3 studio spaces in 5 years so far, and now I'm 2 extra home base properties as well. So it's the location tends to be the home base, or the where I set myself up, and what backdrops I can use, and how much of it is business and how much of it is home space, and whether that's in the same venue or in a completely different one. And if I separate the studio from the home, business from home, then it's a greater expense.
Yeah.
So being able to afford that over the lows as well as the peaks, and just managing that. Sometimes there's a bunch of invoices that get paid in one hit, and then sometimes I'm waiting months for an invoice to be paid.
Yeah.
So it's not that regular income that a salary job provides.
You've got to be mentally flexible to be able to just deal with what is in front of you at that time, whatever that challenge is, whether it's, you're going through a peak and a busy period and everything's going great and it's challenging you in a particular way. And then there's other times where, you're waiting for that one invoice, or you're just trying to make ends meet, or as you said, now moving home and trying to work out where you can set up. And where's the best spot, and
getting all my jobs done around like the business jobs done around the home jobs.
Yep.
So it's always a juggling act. You've work with what you've got. For me, I create lists. So at the moment I probably have on my list about 12 projects that I'm working on, and each of those projects there's a bit of back and forth between the clients on them too. So I'll do a little bit, send it off to the client, have to wait for them to come back to me to do the next little bit. So so that each of those jobs, I never know when they're going to actually be complete until they're complete.
Yep.
And I don't know what jobs are going to come in. So I'll take jobs straight away on the when they come in with a priority level. So last night, for example, I went and took photos of a family getting ready for a 60th birthday dinner. So that was a very last minute impromptu shoot, which I now have to edit. So I'll have to fit in 5 hours of editing for that project as well. So it's there's always that juggle and trying to see which jobs need to be done first and prioritising things. So
it's definitely having that flexibility, because I think if you were very sort of stuck in your ways or stubborn with process and routine and schedule and whatnot, you probably go insane, because nothing is guaranteed, nothing is structured in that sense. I mean, you can have some structure, but in the end, you've got no control over what's coming in and what you do with it. Which
is why this suits me better than teaching.
Yeah.
I have no bells. I have no no scheduled anything. Yeah. So no timetable, but whatever I set myself. So I value flexibility, and I think coming from a background of a lot of childcare and teaching as well, patience is something that's ingrained in me. So so those things don't frustrate me quite as much as what they might frustrate other people. I've got patience to wait for a client to send me back some work or something. An advertisement that I've put out, I've got patience to wait for that to pay off.
That's it.
If it was the type of thing that frustrated me, I'd be in another job.
So. Absolutely. Well, I think it certainly takes a certain type of person to be able to just mentally handle so many different variables happening on a day-to-day basis, just constantly.
Well, things settle down too. It's not always crazy.
Yeah.
So highs and lows. Once my home life is settled down and my boxes are unpacked and the house is like set and clean and I can just get to work. The jobs that come in are short. I can do a graphic design project in half an hour, or I can make the little changes that need doing in 5 minutes. So it might be that I have a stint of time that I've got all my jobs complete and I'm just waiting for everybody to get back to me, or the next project to come in. So I have long days. I work 7 days a week, and in theory, I work from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, because there's no set time. So in that long day, the massive amount of waking hours that you have in a week, I'm not working the entire time.
Yeah, of course.
So I've got flexibility in stopping, doing a little 5 minutes of work here, 10 minutes of work here, half an hour there. Some days it might only add up to 2 hours of work. Some days it might add up to 18 hours of work. But I do definitely have a lot of time to spare as well. I could do a lot more. No,
that's cool. So. I think that's one of the benefits of being self-employed, is that you're controlling your day and what you put in is what you get back. So, you can plan ahead as to what your day looks like and sort of manage that accordingly, instead of just saying, well, I start at this time and I end at this time, or I have to be here at this particular point in time. And obviously there'll be certain jobs and the individual things that you've got to cater for, but ultimately as a business, you're creating those boundaries for yourself.
Definitely. Yeah. I cater to my clients first. Yeah. So anything that comes in that needs doing, I'll do. But then there's the other side of it, that if I want more work, I need to create things that will generate that work. So there's hours that are unpaid that are all about marketing and creating events and creating opportunities for more work. So the more of that time I can spend, and the more I put into that, the more work that generates. Absolutely. So there are long periods that I go where I don't get to spend that time putting more work into that, and then I have a low because of it. So, but then you also have to have a lot of time of rest and socialising and being out there in nature and doing something other than just working. Yeah,
of course. So once the boxes are unpacked and you've worked out what you're going to do with studio space and where you're going to set up and whatnot, what's what's the next 12 months look like? What's the next few years? Do you just want to sort of build what you have and just make sure that that's got its own momentum, or do you have visions of adding extra services and elements to your business, or scaling it up? What's the near or the long future look like?
Well, things just sort of develop, but I do like the idea of doing more professional development myself. Yep. So with the teaching background and 9 years of university under my belt so far, I'm at the point where I want to teach myself more, and there are so many resources on the internet. So if there are things that I want to learn, I've got access to the materials to be able to teach myself. So I don't know what direction that will take me in, but study tends to push you in a different direction as you learn new things. Yep. So whatever I pick up will influence what I do. I was really strong into women's photography, women's shoots when I first started, and I haven't been doing quite as much of that as I've been servicing small businesses more. So the artistic, conceptual portrait photography, which tends to be with women modelling. Not that I wouldn't mind more men modelling. That could be something that I revisit and try and get going again, because it does help my business to show marketing images, at least of my skills in Photoshop and creative thinking in portraiture as well. So, okay.
So there could be a whole range of different avenues that you could find yourself wandering down depending on where the attention's...
where my squirrel attention goes, squirrel. So I think it will still always be under that umbrella of Golf Friday. So photographer, graphic designer, teacher, and social media, PR marketing sort of stuff. So,
fantastic.
So that's the Golf Friday banner will encompasses a lot already. So so what I do within those sort of sub banners, we'll see.
It's pretty exciting. Gives you lots of options.
Lots of flexibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I'll put links up so everyone can check out what you do, and awesome. If anyone's in the vicinity, they know who to call.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, folks. If you want to reach out to Karin and learn more about L'Escargot Eve photography and graphic design, I think I'm getting better at pronouncing that, you can go to thedrunksnail.com, or you can go to facebook.com/thedrunksnail. Alternatively, as always, you can go to the show notes over at selfstarter.com.au, where I'll dump everything over there, plus a bunch of additional resources and links for you guys. Now, there's 4 key points that I'd like to highlight from this great chat with Karin. The first one was the benefits of working in a small area. It's that big fish in a small pond mentality. I think we find sometimes in those more built-up areas, in metro areas, that there's a lot of noise. It's hard to sort of get your head above the water and get people to see what you're doing and get people's attention. Whereas in a smaller area, you're going to get noticed a lot better. So there are some great advantages of working in a small area. There are, of course, plenty of challenges, but that's one positive there. From a glass half full perspective, it's very, very cool. And the second thing, which was really interesting, was Karin making the decision to let her teaching license slide, removing that safety blanket and understanding that when work starts to dry up and things get sort of quiet, that she's forced to get creative, forced to work harder, forced to think outside the box, instead of going back to the safety blanket of her teaching and earning money that way and not actually putting the focus into her business. She removed that safety net and focused on really pushing herself more and more to improve her business when things got tough. So I thought that was really, really cool and a great tactic to use, which has no doubt provided benefit for Karin. And the third thing was her deep community connections. Community is going to be this repetitive theme that continues on with every single episode of the Self-Starter podcast. Her connections with growing up in that area, the leverage that she's built from growing up there, providing multiple skills for all the local businesses in that area, and just trying to help people as much as possible. That's another thing that I'm seeing quite a bit, is that people are helping others, and as a result, you're getting the support from others in the local area. It's about working together. We're not all doing our own thing on our own. We're doing this together, all providing our own different things, but ultimately we all want to be there to support each other, and Karin's really making a focus of doing that. And the last thing, which was really important as well, and this has been touched on in a previous episode, but really preparing for the downtimes, not so much the worst case scenario, but in regional areas, especially in the coastal regions, you've got your peak holiday seasons. And so a lot of people make a lot of money in that period of time. But in the colder months, where a lot of people aren't venturing to the coast, things get really quiet. Business dries up a bit. And for Karin, it's understanding where the peaks and the troughs are and preparing for those quieter times, and really sort of being strategic with what she does and what she provides at different periods of time throughout the year. And that gives her the comfort and the peace of mind of understanding that she's not going to be left high and dry in those colder months where there's not a lot of business and not a lot of people in the area, that she can still generate income and generate business for herself, but also taking complete advantage of when it's a peak season as well. So I think that's just the foresight and the awareness of the local area and how it dictates and moves has been obviously very valuable for Karin. So everything else will be over at selfstarter.com.au. Please go over there, check it out. I'll have a bunch of stuff over there. These podcasts are coming out once a fortnight for the time being, so please enjoy them. If you haven't listened to the previous ones, go back and check them out. In the meantime, I'll have a bunch of blog posts and other resources and links for you guys to check out over at selfstarter.com.au, so please go over there. But until 2 weeks' time, take care, keep reading, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Bye-bye.